My name is Christian Pettit. I work for Flottweg Separation Technology. I'm responsible for sales for the beverage department for breweries, distilleries, sometimes wineries, and coffee and tea projects. The ethanol industry in the U.S. is basically the practice of making grain alcohol from corn, wheat, sometimes Milo, but basically as a fuel additive that's added to the gasoline here in the United States. So everywhere that you buy fuel and you see it says 10% ethanol, it's basically coming from the ethanol plants that we work with. The distilled spirits industry is basically the same thing. The major difference between the two would be that in the distilled spirits industry you have a lot more various mash bills or a lot of different grain bills. So it'd be sometimes a mixture of corn, rye, barley, or corn, wheat, and barley, whereas in a fuel ethanol operation it's typically 100% corn or 100% wheat or 100% Milo. It doesn't change what which machines are used, but it does change sometimes how the machines are set up, some of the parameters that we use, some of the machine settings that we use. Particle size from different types of feedstocks can be different, so we have to look at that and make the changes accordingly. I would say in distilleries we're probably up to 30 or 35 machines across the board for distilled beverage applications. And then in brewery we have a whole bunch more. And brewery is kind of similar without the distillation. You're doing similar separations, but you don't have the distillation step. But you do have the fermentation, the grains and things like that, so there are some similarities that cross over there as well. I think also in the distilled spirits industry, there's the opportunity, and we've had some success already with this, the byproducts part that we also do with the ethanol industry. So the set decanters for thin stillage clean up the solids that you pull out of there. There's a lot of value to those solids when they're dried as animal feed additives and things like that. And also the corn oil separation. So any distillery that has a evaporator system where they're making syrup from the centrate from the decanters, there's corn oil in there typically, and it's recoverable and it's quite valuable. So the corn oil recovery systems that we work with are also a big possibility, and we're starting to get a lot of interest from those. And it's not so important for beverage distilleries because their end product is worth a lot more. Fuel ethanol, you're only talking about a couple dollars a gallon because it's just added to gasoline, whereas whiskey, if you think about how much you're going to pay for a gallon of whiskey, it's quite a bit more. So the byproducts aren't as crucial for them, but as environmental regulations change, they're going to have to do something with it, and it makes sense to make money from it. So the more solids that we pull out of those liquids, the less that is wasted and the more water that is recovered. So water is going to be an issue in the future too, and that's something else that we work on a lot. A lot of our processes lend to the sustainability side, so even if it's not on everybody's mind as a company, we can certainly go in that direction because a lot of our processes lend to the sustainability of things. Flottweg's experience from the ethanol industry translated very well into the distilled spirits industry because we had so many machines and so much experience with fuel ethanol from corn. It's almost exactly the same process, the difference being different mash bills, and so you have to make some minor machine adjustments. But every distillery is expanding, and it's just been really good for us because of our experience in the ethanol industry.